Welcome to Movie Rehash. Today, I'm going to explain an action, thriller movie released in 1994, titled, Speed. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. In a Los Angeles office building, a security guard is inspecting the basement. He finds a man working on some wires. When the security guard asks to see a work request, the man unexpectedly stabs the guard in the ear and says, "Nothing personal." A bunch of people who work in the building are riding a fast elevator down when they hear some explosions. Suddenly, the cables holding the elevator break and it drops a few floors before the emergency brakes kick in to stop it. The Los Angeles Police Department sends their special weapons and tactics team, including Officer Jack Traven and his partner, Officer Harry Temple. They meet up with their boss, Lieutenant Herb McMahon, who explains the situation. Bombs have already cut the main elevator cables, and the only thing preventing it from crashing to the basement is the emergency brakes. However, the bomber has rigged those brakes with explosives and given them a 1-hour deadline. Pay him $3.7 million, or he'll blow up the brakes. Both Jack and Harry use building access panels to examine the bomb. Harry, the SWAT team's bomb expert, says the work doesn't look familiar, but the bomber is definitely a professional. While they wait, Harry asks Jack a hypothetical question. What would Jack do if he were at an airport and a woman was taken hostage, with the kidnapper heading towards a plane? Jack suggests injuring the hostage with a non-lethal shot to prevent the kidnapper from taking her on the plane. Harry disagrees, thinking it's a bad idea to harm a civilian. As they discuss this, Jack suddenly comes up with the idea to use a window cleaner's crane on the roof to hopefully rescue the passengers from the broken elevator. However, the mysterious bomber has bugged the express elevator, and is listening to everything Jack and Harry say, and is in an empty freight elevator nearby. Becoming suspicious, he triggers the emergency brakes, causing the elevator to start plummeting. The crane cable briefly stops the elevator between two floors, allowing Harry and Jack to rescue the passengers before the crane comes loose from its base, causing the elevator to fall to the bottom. Harry notices that the explosion happened 3 minutes earlier than the given time limit. Jack thinks the bomber might be nearby, but Harry explains that the bomber could have triggered the explosives from a distant location. Harry suggests the bomber would prefer to stay on the move. Since the main elevators have been disabled, Jack figures out that the bomber must be inside a freight elevator within the building. Harry and Jack locate the freight elevator, but the bomber, whose name is Howard Payne, has also placed bugs on the outside of the elevator and hears them approaching. Payne starts shooting at them with a shotgun, causing Harry to fall into the elevator. Payne uses a control device he's connected to the elevator's control panel to raise the car to the top of the building, leaving Jack with no choice but to jump inside the car before it crushes him against the ceiling. Payne attempts to shoot Jack but runs out of ammunition. He quickly reveals that he has explosives wired to himself and takes Harry as a hostage before Jack can take a clear shot at him. Payne uses his device to deceive Jack and Harry's team into thinking they're exiting on a different floor, but they end up in a parking area instead. Payne tries to bring Harry with him to the building's parking garage, but Jack remembers the scenario they talked about earlier and shoots Harry in the leg, stopping Payne from taking Harry any further, and causing Payne to release him. Payne tries to make a run for it, but before Jack can reach him, the explosives detonate, pushing him back. Later on, there's a ceremony to honor Jack and Harry for their exceptional service. They receive medals for their bravery in rescuing the hostages and stopping the bomber. After the ceremony, Jack and Harry, along with their colleagues, head to a bar to celebrate their success. As the evening progresses and with a few drinks, Harry advises Jack to be more careful in his line of work because his daring actions could put his life at risk. The following day, Jack stops at a small coffee shop for a drink. As he leaves and walks to his car, a bus that had just pulled away suddenly explodes and catches fire. Nearby, a payphone rings, and Jack is surprised to hear Payne's voice on the other end. Payne reveals that he spent 2 years planning the elevator incident and scolds Jack for foiling his life's work. The bomber then explains that he has placed another bomb on a Los Angeles city bus, which will become armed once the bus reaches 50 miles per hour, and will explode if it drops below that speed. Payne also threatens to detonate the bomb himself if anyone tries to get off the bus and demands a $3.7 million ransom by 11 a.m. Furthermore, Payne knows that the bus's radio isn't working, so alerting the transit authority won't help. He provides the bus number, 2525, and Jack races to catch up with it. Jack races to catch up with the bus while it's on the move. However, when he desperately tries to get the bus driver's attention and asks him to open the doors, the driver ignores him, assuming it's a joke. Jack then takes control of a Jaguar and once again catches up to the bus. After a frantic struggle, Jack finally communicates to the driver that there's a bomb on the bus. Meanwhile, Jack contacts Harry using the cellular phone of the Jaguar's owner to alert him to the dangerous situation. Then, he manages to board by jumping from the moving Jaguar into the bus through the door. Jack tries to calm down the bus passengers, but an argument with a man holding a gun, who fears that Jack is there to arrest him, leads to a struggle where the bus driver gets shot and injured. A young woman named Annie Porter steps up and takes control of the bus, intending to hit the brakes. However, Jack firmly instructs her not to stop the bus and informs everyone about the bomb on board. Following the injured driver's suggestion, Jack opens an access panel on the bus floor and discovers a decoy bomb and then the real one, which is alarmingly large. He shares this information with Harry, who is puzzled by Jack's observation that the bomb's timer is attached to a cheap gold watch. Harry begins to suspect that their bomber might be a former officer and directs his team to start investigating officers who have experience with bombs or have worked on bomb squads. Back on the bus, a traffic jam on the freeway forces Annie to take a detour onto city streets. An LAPD helicopter follows the bus, with Lieutenant Mack on board trying to plan a safe route. The people on the bus face a terrifying experience as Annie and Jack must navigate through numerous obstacles that could slow the bus down dangerously. They encounter challenges like driving the wrong way in a one-way lane against oncoming traffic, and even colliding with a baby carriage. Fortunately, the carriage is empty and only carries cans, sparing any harm to a child. Finally, a police escort arrives to lead the bus onto the unfinished and empty 105 freeway. However, the first entrance, a gentle right turn, is blocked by a group of school kids crossing at the worst moment possible. Annie and Jack are forced to make a sharp right turn, almost causing the bus to tip over. Once they're on the freeway, Mac and several officers board a flatbed truck that pulls up beside the bus. Mac wants to evacuate the passengers, but Jack clarifies that the news helicopters in the sky are broadcasting the situation, and Payne will blow up the bus if anyone tries to get off. Jack receives a call from Payne concerning what's being shown on television. Jack negotiates with Payne to let the wounded bus driver off, with Payne warning Jack that the bus must not slow down. They successfully get the driver off the bus, but a passenger named Helen becomes anxious and attempts to exit. As she stands over the entrance stairs, Payne triggers a smaller explosion, destroying the platform. Helen falls under the bus and tragically gets crushed by the wheels. Mac is informed that the 105 freeway is incomplete, and there's a section ahead with a 50-foot gap. Jack is also told about this, but he still insists on not letting anyone off the bus. In a last-ditch effort, Jack tells Annie to accelerate, hoping that there might be a slope that will enable them to jump the bus over the gap. Astonishingly, his plan succeeds, and the bus safely clears the gap without any damage. After successfully crossing the gap, Jack discovers an off-ramp that leads to Los Angeles International Airport. Annie takes the off-ramp and enters the airport through an exit. In doing so, they run over a pair of spike strips that damage a few of the bus's tires. Jack's strategy is to prevent the news helicopters from continuing to track them. Since the airport is a restricted airspace, the helicopters can't fly over it. The long, unused runways at the airport will also allow the bus to circle without interfering with regular traffic, buying them time to locate Payne or disarm the bomb. Lieutenant Mack arrives at the airport with additional police officers. Jack persuades Payne to allow him to leave the bus for ransom negotiations, and Payne reluctantly agrees. Jack reassures the passengers that he will return soon to assist them. Jack disembarks from the bus and joins Lieutenant Mack on a vehicle. Mac believes they should be able to safely remove the passengers, but Jack remains convinced that Payne will become aware of it, leaving them with only one option: to disarm the bomb. To the passengers' shock, Jack arranges to position himself on a small wheeled dolly connected by a cable to a small truck. He's sent under the still-moving bus in an attempt to disarm the bomb while receiving guidance from Harry and the bomb squad. Unfortunately, Payne had designed the bomb with a collapsible circuit, making it impossible for Jack to disarm it. While Jack is struggling to disarm the bomb, Harry is brainstorming alternative ways to defuse it. During this time, his colleagues come back with information about Payne's identity. It turns out that Payne is a former member of the Atlanta Police Department's bomb squad who was forced into early retirement after a bomb he was attempting to disarm exploded, resulting in a burnt hand and the loss of his thumb. Harry and his team rush off to apprehend Howard. Jack faces a near-death experience when the cable holding the dolly he's on breaks, and he narrowly avoids being run over by the bus. He manages to cling to the underside of the bus but accidentally punctures the fuel tank with a screwdriver. The passengers on the bus come to Jack's aid by helping him up through an access panel in the bus's floor, saving his life. Now, with a fuel leak to deal with, Jack calls for a fueling vehicle to drive alongside the bus and refuel it while they continue on their high-speed journey. Meanwhile, Harry and some other LAPD SWAT team members go to Payne's residence. They enter the house but quickly realize Payne isn't there. To their horror, they discover that he has rigged the house with explosives, and the moment they entered, the explosives are triggered. The house explodes, resulting in the tragic deaths of everyone inside, including Harry. After the bomb explosion, Payne calls Jack and takes pleasure in gloating about Harry's death, revealing that it was his old watch that helped Harry identify him. Payne then provides Jack with instructions to deliver the $3.7 million ransom to a garbage can at Pershing Square downtown, warning that everyone on the bus will die if he doesn't receive the money and referring to Annie as a wildcat once more. Jack is devastated by Harry's death and is unsure about his next move, beginning to accept that Payne might actually succeed. However, he suddenly notices the sweatshirt Annie had been wearing, which bears the logo of the University of Arizona Wildcats. This revelation makes Jack realize that Payne has been monitoring the bus using the security camera above the bus driver's seat. Although the camera can record video, it cannot record audio. Jack communicates with Mac about his plan. Mac quickly arranges for the news vans in the vicinity to stop recording and seizes one of them to trace the signal feeding into the bus's camera. With everyone on the bus sitting still, the news crew captures footage of the passengers, collecting enough material to create a video loop to deceive Payne. However, Annie points out that the fuel level is running dangerously low, and Mac is compelled to initiate the loop with only a minute of footage available, hoping it will be enough to fool Payne. An airport bus pulls up next to bus 2525, and the passengers are safely taken off. However, because the tires were damaged when the bus went through the airport exits, they continue to lose their treads. Annie and Jack are unable to exit the bus through the regular doors. To escape, Jack secures the steering wheel with some rope and keeps the gas pedal pressed with a steel pipe. They manage to crawl out from underneath the bus using the access panel. The bus travels a short distance before heading straight toward an empty cargo plane. As the speed drops below 50 miles per hour, the bus collides with the plane and explodes. After the passengers are attended to by paramedics, the police receive a call from Payne inquiring about the ransom money. McMahon is ready to confront Payne, but Jack realizes that Payne is unaware that the bus exploded. This realization gives them the upper hand and the opportunity to capture him. The money is put in bags and thrown into the trash bin Payne pointed out, with some paint bombs hidden with the money. Many cops watch Pershing Square, while Payne sees from a tall building. Payne believes he's ahead, but then sees the bus camera and understands it's a repeated video. Payne hurriedly wears his old cop clothes and, looking like the rest, goes to Annie and takes her away, telling her Jack sent him. Jack and several cops are keeping an eye on the trash can, but nobody shows up. Suddenly, Jack tells them to activate the money's tracking device, and they're shocked to see the money is moving. Jack quickly goes to the trash can and discovers there's a hole underneath it. Jack falls through the hole beneath the street and finds Annie with explosives strapped to her. Payne is there too, holding a detonator. Payne scolds Jack a bit, then heads to the Los Angeles subway, with Jack sneaking onto the train's roof as it leaves. Payne handcuffs Annie to a pole, kills the train driver, and tells Annie his plan. He'll take the money and leave her to explode, making the police believe they both died on the subway. Payne's eagerness gets the best of him when he hears Jack climbing on top of the train. Playfully suggesting he might try to convince Jack to let him go by offering money, Payne reaches into the money bag, but accidentally triggers a hidden dye-pack bomb. This explosion ruins the money and covers Payne in purple dye. Furious, Payne climbs up the side of the train from the outside and engages in a physical fight with Jack. While they're fighting, Jack notices a low-hanging light approaching. He lifts Payne's head, seizes the detonator for Annie's bomb, and the light causes Payne's head to come off, with his body falling off the train. Jack enters the train and successfully removes the explosives from Annie. However, he doesn't have the key to unlock her handcuffs, and due to Payne shooting the train driver, the control panel is damaged, making the brakes unusable. Jack sees a rail map that shows a sharp curve up ahead. He decides to speed up the train with the intention of derailing it. The plan works, and Annie is freed from the handcuffs. The train careens off an unfinished section of track right in front of the Chinese Theater in Hollywood, landing on its side and coming to a stop. Fortunately, none of the workers in the subway tunnel are injured. Annie and Jack are both safe, and as they share a kiss, a group of tourists and onlookers, who had their traffic stopped by the train, come over to see the unusual sight. In this way, movie ends here. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more interesting movie recaps.